So Jesper, why did you decide 13 years ago to write the book, Your Competent Child?
I decided to write it because my experience as a family therapist with children and parents were in almost any aspect different or contrary to what I learned as a professional and as a father. So I wanted simply to summarize 20 years of experience and see if anybody else would find it valuable.
And how did you grow up, and how do you think the children grow up today?
I'm still not sure I am grown up, but no, I grew up in a very different time, in a relatively poor family, in a community and a society where everybody knew what was right and wrong, and everybody agreed on what was right and wrong. So I think emotionally for my parents it was as difficult as for parents today. But in terms of reflecting, thinking about what they were doing, it was very simple. I had a very interesting experience. I turned 60 last month, and I did a few big interviews with Scandinavian newspapers, and my mother was reading one of them, and she was in shock. I think for a week she was sure that she was going to die, and then she slowly recovered. And I was not criticizing her or her husband. I was simply talking about how it was to be a child. And then my mother said, at the end of our conversation, she said, now I see that you and your brother never knew who your parents were. Mm. And I think that's a very clever summary. And I was waiting, and it was very quiet, and I said, and she said, what do you mean, and? And I said, and you never knew who your children were. Yes. And she said again, very cleverly, she said, no, at that time nobody was interested.
So you wanted to say something about children today and our ways of modern raising?
I think there are many differences. The most important ones are that we have learned much more about children than we knew just 20 years ago. The other thing is that all the common values, the consensus in society is gone. So there's no support from the outside. So parents have to go inside and find their inner mother or father or grandfather or grandmother. And for the children, very generally speaking, it has become a lot better in some of the aspects that were terrible before. In other aspects, it's a very confusing world because they live with parents who are changing values more often than they're washing their hands.
So the solution is not solving the problems of past approaches, and we need a new vision, a new paradigm, and you propose this new vision. Can you explain more about that?
Well, I'm certainly not the only one. There are lots of scientists now The most dominating ones are the neuroscientists who are confirming what other scientists have discovered and what we learned as clinicians through experience. That is that the relations between parents and children are extremely important. It is the most important phenomenon in a family. And that is what raises children.
Mm-hmm. And there are certain. So your approach is based on the fact that we worked on the relations between parents and children, that we respect our children, that we treat them as equals.
Well, not as equals, but we have discovered that children are exactly like real people.
So they are competent.
Also. and therefore I think it is fair to take them serious. We are trying to offer that to children because they cannot ask for it. But it is very interesting that there is a very similar development now with children that took place 10 years earlier with women. When women said, now it's enough, now we want to be treated as real human beings. And as you know, that rocked the world. Yes. Especially the world of men.